Hey, thanks so much for tuning in. The following is a conversation that I got to have with my dear friend Alex Clary concerning vocation and work and all things relating to what to do when you don't know what is next. He is currently in between jobs and is on the hunt, so just a quick shout out for him. If you're hiring, hit me up because we're trying to find this guy a job. But in the meantime, he's doing an amazing job of networking and building friendships and investing in relationships. And it's something that I personally have learned a lot from the way that he's done. So I'm really excited to invite people into this conversation that we had because I learned a ton from it, and I think really anyone who's listening can. So thanks so much for joining. I don't want to hesitate too much longer. Let's just get right into it. This is my conversation with Alex Clary.
At the beginning of June, June 7th to be specific, I left my company, left the company that I was at for almost 2 years. I started there a couple months after I graduated college. I had never had a big boy job before. I had a really shoddy internship the summer before, and so I just had like absolutely no experience. But I end up working at like the coolest first job that you could possibly imagine. It was like if Google had like a baby, like that's what the interior of the office looked like, and it was just super trendy and whatnot, and it was just pretty basic project management and a little bit of social media for your somewhat run-of-the-mill creative marketing agency. And so I was just doing like project management assistance for um, some of our account managers there, and it was really awesome. Like I really loved my time and really fell in love with the people, which is what made leaving so difficult. And the reason I left was because um, the company, while I was there, had a little bit of like a financial roller coaster where, in short, some of our biggest clients for different reasons had to cut their spending by like 60 to 70%. And so our company went into like cost saving mode, and so I had to do a bunch of things to um, just stay afloat. And one of those things was not doing wage reviews last June. And everyone was like, we get it, we're on board, like we're in this for the good of the company, all good. Um, so I missed the chance for a raise last summer, but I'm like, okay, that's fine. And we got to December, which is my 1 year anniversary there, and I missed an opportunity again for a raise because we were just emerging from that financial instability stuff. And so, um, first couple months of this year was really eyeing June of this year for a chance to advocate for myself for that stuff, just because I'd just gotten so involved in a bunch of different parts of the company. At the time that I left, I was sitting in different seats and I was volunteering on the side to organize these events for other marketers in Northern Colorado, which was a lot of fun, but I was, getting stretched pretty thin. And, I was like, I love the company, and, I love being here and here are all the places that I'm involved in. I want to stay, and in order to do that, like I need a raise. Things are stacking up for my wife and I, and we've got plans that just we need to account for and need to make ends meet a little bit better. And in that conversation with my owners at the company, who are husband and wife, fantastic people. Um, Hard to say what exact order this was in, but they were like, unfortunately, we can't accommodate that right now, but also we know you and we love you, and we know that the seats that you've been in right now have been, to put it dramatically, like soul crushing. Um, and
In
which
what
is put
way?
um well, they were just to the point of them, they're like, we know you and we love you, like you're a really bright person. Like in the office, I'm a very talkative person, always like to go around and like check in with people and just say what's up, and tend to be the instigator for just extracurricular activities and stuff like that. And
Yeah.
um, I'm just a big like cultural presence, I would say. And they were just like, you're a bright person in that way, and we feel like we've seen you, to put it metaphorically, like get dimmer.
Hmm.
And
Wow. That's crazy.
yeah, yeah,
That they were
to
like, it makes sense though, because you're spending so much of your life with them, like a third of your life,
yeah,
and they've had the opportunity over a few months to watch your soul get sucked out of your body.
yeah. I mean,
Sucks.
yeah, and it was surprising for a bunch of reasons because I think the assumption and I think the reality for a lot of people is they're not going to work somewhere where the people they work for care about that, you know. I
Right.
worked for some really great people who were really true to their word about caring about the well-being of the people that worked for them, and really caring about their employees doing something that they love doing, even if it's not working for them, which is part of why I left. You know, they're like, we've seen you get dimmer, and also we feel like your strengths are so glaringly obvious elsewhere, you know, that
Hmm.
the project management seat that I was in was just not what I was born to do. And one of them is he's a really lovingly blunt guy. He was like, "You are not born to be a project manager." And I was like,
Hmm.
"Okay," like pride hit a little bit. I'm like, "You're right, but also, come on."
For
um,
sure.
and hearing them say that, like, we feel like this has been soul crushing, or we've seen your light get dimmer, actually gave me the freedom to be honest about the way I felt about the job or the work that I was doing.
Hmm.
Because something that I've learned about myself is that I am an optimistic to a fault person, meaning uh, I can find a silver lining for just about anything. The con to that is I can find a silver lining for just about anything. And so even if something is even if something is um, really difficult, or like painful, I can just be like, "Oh, but I grew from it," which might be true, Like, I grew from it, or I learned this and I'll do better next time, which could all be true, but I tend to gaslight myself about being honest about, like, okay, do I want to do that again, and is that okay,
Right.
and so them saying that was like, "You know what? I think you're right." Um and after that, they were like, "We're prepared to help you find the next, your next step." The options were stay here and we can do the wage reviews in December when they've been rescheduled, or we can help you find the next thing. And so it was like, keep doing the thing that I haven't really loved doing at the same pay for the next 6 months, or don't work and get paid for the next 3 months at the beginning of the summer. And I'm like, I, I will I will take the latter. Yeah, it was you convinced
Yeah,
me.
that's kind
Like,
of an insane offer. And it
yeah.
just shows you like how much they really like they're putting their money where their mouth is and caring about you and like wanting to transition you out in like the most advantageous possible way.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's been awesome. I've seen most of them after I left. I'm actually still wearing a hat, for for the company and everything. So leaving on good terms was really great, and really grateful for their commitment and just sticking to their word and caring about their people. So that was a long-winded answer, but that's where I am right
That's
now. And so
great.
I've just been doing some introspection and
Yeah,
self-discovery, and
how's the in between been? How's it feel having a light schedule?
it's been
Yeah. Hmm.
tent and stuff, and I'm like, man, maybe what he's doing or a version of it could work where I am right now. So yeah, then just had a sweet trip with the boys and an anniversary trip, and here I am.
Wait, sweet trip with the boys is a separate thing from anniversary trip?
Yeah, yeah. I
Oh,
had
okay.
a
I wasn't sure if you were referring to anniversary trip as sweet trip with the boys, and I was like, that's a weird way to refer to traveling to Charleston with your wife.
no negative.
What did you
Yeah,
do with the boys?
bachelor party. This is the
Sick.
summer
For
of love.
August?
Nah, my friend Jacob
Cool.
had this is like the summer of love for me. I've got 6 weddings, and I'm in 5 of them within the span of like 4 or 5 months, which is super fun.
Been there, brother.
It's been awesome. We just went up to Breck and did a bunch of climbing and hiking and fishing and hot
Oof.
tubbing and
So nice. I miss the mountains, dude.
yeah. Oh, that's right. I forget about that often. Yeah,
For sure. Especially in the summer, dude. I mean, love the ocean and everything, but the North Shore during the summer is kind of depressing because there's zero waves. It's just complete. It's like a lake out there. And so I'm just looking at all my
really.
friends back in Colorado that are just climbing mountains and rock climbing and mountaineering and skiing gnarly couloirs. And I'm like, oh. But it's like totally a grass is greener thing because the moment I come back to Colorado, I'm like, oh, but Hawaii.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That's so real. Dude, I think one thing I want to call out in your whole in between stage and just what you've been up to so far in this is I think you sort of have intuitively found what I would kind of consider the best way to get into whatever next is for work. Like I just think the way you're going about it is profound and also just something that a lot of people don't do. Like I think a lot of people who would be in your situation would just like, once a week go grind LinkedIn and just apply for like 20 random jobs on the
Yeah,
internet and
yeah,
probably never get jobs because most people that I know that are just like trying to get a job by throwing themselves at LinkedIn or Glassdoor or like some website like that has all the listings. It's
yeah,
like, especially if it's a fully remote position, it's like, dude,
yeah,
there's 7,000 other people applying for this. And
yeah,
I just know so many people that have been stuck and just feel like there's no jobs and the job market is impossible and it's impossible to get work, which, like, for sure, it's a tough job market right now. And I don't want to like take anything away from that. But
yeah,
most of what I tell people who like feel like they haven't found a job or feel stuck in that is like just call like 5 people a week. Just
yeah,
text someone and set up a call with them and don't even be like, "Hey, can you get me a job?" Literally just like ask them questions about how they got their job, what their job is like, just anything that you're genuinely curious about with their life. It's in some ways it's sort of similar to that advice I've gotten before about money, where like when I was fundraising, people would say like when you would ask for advice, you get money, but if you ask for money, you get advice.
yeah,
That kind of thing. I honestly feel like I've seen so many people find like cool jobs and get connected in cool places just because they used they invested in the relationships in their life. I guess that's the best way to put it.
yeah.
And they just, out of curiosity, wrote up a list of 5 people that they know that are doing cool things that they have some interest in and just call them. Like, I just think that is literally, to me, that's the fastest way to get a sick job and like do something better than what you're doing in your career. But for whatever reason, I think maybe because it's like a vulnerability thing or it's like people don't have the energy to invest in relationships like that. People would rather just kind of like troll LinkedIn and just, apply for 6 million jobs every week.
Totally.
But anyway, I just respect the way you've gone about it a ton. And, you're not necessarily looking for another like full-time salary type job.
Yeah,
But I just think you're setting yourself really well up to do freelancing, to do whatever kind of work that you want to do just by being curious and investing in relationships. So just wanted to say bravo for that. And I'm curious. Like, I know it's been cool having our conversations, but you said you've been like talking to other people. I'm curious, like if there have been other conversations that have felt fruitful, or like what other nuggets you've found from that hunt you've been on.
yes. There are two. I guess, well, a bunch of them come to mind actually, and one of them that I feel like talking about first ended up having nothing to do with a job at all. I'll name drop Carrie Snyder. He and I got together like 2 weeks ago. We just got breakfast, and he recently left his job too, and so we were just gonna bounce
Is
some
he
things
related to
off.
Morgan Snyder? Who's Carrie
I have
Snyder?
always wondered that, and I should have asked him, and I thought about it, and I didn't.
Oh, that's cool. Is he like a Fort Collins Young Life guy, or who is that?
He's a glue guy,
Carrie
glue and Wild
Snyder.
Suns.
Okay.
Yeah,
Interesting. Okay, cool. I'll have to look him
yeah.
up. I don't think I've met him before.
Oh, I assumed him being in the glue bubble that maybe be like, oh, Mindy knew him, but oh, anyway,
Maybe.
um, super great guy, and we just got breakfast, and we had plans to talk about career things, and I was going to ask him questions about, hey, do you think, like, based off knowing me, like, does this sound like a good direction, or what do you think about, conversations like that, and we ended up just talking about our dads like the whole time.
That's so sick. Because he knows your dad worked with him for a while, I'm assuming.
That's right. Yeah, they worked pretty closely for about 5 years, and he recently, within the last year, lost his dad, and so we were just talking about
Mm.
all of the things that come with that, and it was awesome. Like it was just super fun. It was one of those things where you plan to eat for an hour and you stay for 2.5. You know,
That's so sick. Wow.
so I mean that one was just like really really fun, and out of that,
Yeah.
he and I are going to get together again because we didn't know each other super well. So um, that was one of them. Another one
So
was
cool.
this guy named Justin Bowling, who, if you edit this down and have like short form bites, like this dude is awesome and can totally go in the tag of a caption or something because he's the man. Um, Up to you to figure out how that happens,
Sure.
if it even does. Um, anyways, I almost got hooked up with him at the beginning of my job search before I started at my first job. So like 2 years ago, I got hooked
Okay.
up with him right at the time that he was actually leaving his company. So nothing came from that, but I've just been observing him from afar on LinkedIn because he recently started his own business with EOS, which is a entrepreneurial operating system, which is basically you go into a company and you're sort of a consultant who just helps identify things that are working, things that aren't working, and implements this super awesome proven process to just help your business run super smooth. So we
Cool.
started doing that for other businesses, and so he's got like this huge network of people. But his presence on LinkedIn is just so awesome because he's always talking about like his struggle with mental health, like good habits
Hmm.
for how he starts his day, and reasons why he loves like the work he does and the people he's working with. And I'm like, well, first of all, I'm like, that's something that I totally want to do, but I need about 20 years more, experience.
Yeah. Yeah.
um, and I'm just like inspired by the vulnerability. And so I just messaged him one day, because he knew a few of the people that I worked with pretty well, and so I was like, hey, love the stuff that you're putting out. I know that you know Ben and Isaac. I would love to talk to you about like career stuff, but more than that, I would just like to get to know you as a person. And so he and I got together and just had more of a career oriented conversation, but talks about like why did he leave his corporate job and start his own thing? Because like the things that were most important to him were his 5 kids and spending more time with his wife and being present with them and just planning for the future. And he was like, he kind of had an aha moment at the end of his 9 to 5 career where he was like, oh, I actually don't have to be miserable, and I actually don't have to put in 10 or 11 hours a day all the time for something that I don't enjoy.
Hmm.
So great conversation with him. And then I just checked my inbox, and he had like, he CC'd me on like 4 or 5 different things of like connections he knew of, like, hey, you got to meet this guy, Alex,
So cool.
which is awesome. Like, so Justin is amazing. Justin, you're amazing.
If you're
um,
listening, if you're out there, Justin, huge fan.
so that was another. And then I talked to this guy who works for Kroenke Sports and Entertainment. So that's the group that owns the Avs, the Nuggets, the Rapids, Arsenal in England, Mammoth,
Wow.
just a bunch of different sports groups because I was like, I like sports. I like talking to people.
I
And
like
so
sports.
talked to this guy who was about my age who just does season ticket sales for the Nuggets.
Okay.
And what stood out to me about my conversation with him was like, he was like, I was super nervous to get into sales, but then I realized, since he's working for the Nuggets, he's like, I only talk about this every single day of my freaking life. And I'm like, I kind of had an idea that I wanted to work for someone or do something that I could put my heart behind. But
Yeah.
hearing this guy say it of like, I talk about this every day. Like this is what I love, and this is something that's usually this kind of job can like weed people out and tends to be really exhaustive and has a lot of burnout. But I love it because my my breath is behind it, and so
Hmm.
um, I'm like, okay, I gotta find that thing.
Hmm. Yeah.
And behind all of that, like I don't have a job right now. I don't have other than the awesome severance package that I was given. Like I don't have a stream of income right now. But I'm not as worried about that as I thought I would be,
Hmm.
because this whole year, at the beginning of this year, I felt like I was assigned like a word of the year. We actually talked about this like way, way back. And that's also when you told me to watch Saltburn, which I'm still like pissed about because that movie was just so
You're
whack.
scarred because you're scarred forever.
It was the weirdest
Dude, that
movie.
movie's a
Anyway,
masterpiece. I don't care what anyone says.
okay. Well, I just
Okay,
uh,
we can talk
okay.
about
Well,
this later, Alex.
um,
That's for episode 2.
episode two. Most of the time when I've seen people do like a word of the year, I'm like, oh, that's just silly. That's something that you just put at the top of your journal entry every day and look up definitions in different languages and plug it into AI and see what it spits out and everything. Like I don't like
Yeah.
I'm like that always felt like kind of silly to me. But at the end of 2023, my wife and I just had like a quick stack of a bunch of like financial things come up where not so much my wife, but more me was like, how are we going to come up with this? Like, this feels like a mountain that we can't move. And just kind of got me immediately, like, so fast into that scarcity mindset. And at the beginning of the year, I was just sitting up here in this room one morning and I felt like the Lord just invited me to be like, trust that, like, you have enough. And it wasn't just with money, it was
Hmm.
with so many other things. It was like with my capability and identity of like, I am enough. I am not defined by what I produce. My wife is enough. We are enough for each other. Christ is enough. What Christ did is enough. And we will have enough because I'm going to trust or I'm going to accept this invitation to trust that the Lord will provide um, exactly what we need, which has been
Hmm.
so true for this whole year. Like I could name
Yeah.
like 5 or 6 different ways that it was like inexplicable, absolutely crazy, but so perfect and so needed. And so leaving my job, I was like, okay, I've been given the gift of time. I'm going to take advantage of that and also just
Yeah.
trust that, if God was in charge of me coming to Bonfire Effect, then he's going to be in charge of me leaving Bonfire Effect and he has a good plan for whatever's next. And I still don't know what it
Hmm.
is. But where was I going with that?
I
I
don't know. I have some questions though.
okay.
So this is like I feel like a theme that I'm curious about because you are in between work and often like work is something that really becomes defining of it's hard to separate from your concept of your identity.
Mhm.
And I think sometimes it's easiest to know who we are when we aren't in the throes of trying to build something or work for some company.
Yep.
And when you just have that time to sit and reflect. So I'm curious in the gap between, and especially like with you sort of realizing project management may not be what I'm passionate about. And also
Hmm.
you sort of mentioning there's this element of creativity and you as an artist, you as a creative, that feels like there's some tailwind to it and maybe might be a direction you want to take your stuff.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, I'm just curious, like how you're thinking about your identity in the midst of that. And also like, I also want you to share the story and speak a little bit to the element. I think it was like an elementary school teacher story that you
Yeah.
had growing
Yeah.
up. If you could just share that and then just tie that into like how are you thinking about that kind of stuff now, and especially as it relates to just like core identity, and then also just as to like what you're gonna do next with your life.
Yeah. The the major identity work started for me um, in like 20, oh, when was it? Fall of 2019, I think. Went to one of the Wild Suns retreats, and it was just the first time that I'd really been exposed to like such a raw and awesome curriculum, and understanding of like, no, my identity is that like I am a son first, um, and I am like fully and perfectly loved, and that I've got these wounds in my past that have dictated what I believe about myself, and getting like a
Mm,
real and true opportunity to break those agreements and accept the things that are true about me instead. And so um, I'll come back to that in a second, but right now my identity is like I've never been more confident in like the person that I am, or like the value that I create, or like what my true like gifts and abilities are. Like I've never been more confident about that in my
mm,
entire life, which is awesome. Um, One of the part that I said I'd come back to was one of those wounds or lies that I'd believed my entire life was, when I was in elementary school. I had an art teacher who I can't remember what the assignment was, or um, I think I might have been like first or second grade, but um, I remember he looked at like what the artwork that I had, and he said something along, not verbatim, but something along the lines of like that's not good enough, or like
mm,
that's not that good. And didn't realize that until a couple years ago, like how much that stuck with me of, oh, I'm not creative at all because I'm not good at that thing. Like I had no category for um, art or creativity to exist outside of like a watercolor box, you know,
mm.
or
Yeah.
a piece of watercolor um, paper. And so, um, like, just to give you an idea of how not artistic I am in that regard of, actual like painting or drawing or illustration and stuff like that. My dad, who is an artist,
Yeah.
came into my classroom one day and was doing a demonstration for our class where he would draw a line and the class would draw the exact same line. And um, at the end, each student's piece of work is supposed to mirror what my dad did, and it was just like a cartoon of a guy making like a goofy face or something. And
Yeah.
um, I didn't know that the pieces were supposed to be connected, and so I look
You're
at
just drawing them
all
all as blobs together.
like I look at my classmates and I see something that kind of mirrors what my dad is doing. I look at mine and it's just a bunch of hieroglyphics just all over the page. uh,
No way.
yeah, yeah. And
That's
so
hilarious.
that's just a funny story. But anyways, yeah, I just always believed that I didn't have that bone in me and it wasn't even worth trying.
Hmm.
And I started to break that belief within the last 2 years, maybe. I just started making tables out of wood. I made one for me and my college roommates that we ate on for 2 years, and it's actually in my house. It's what my wife and I eat at every night. We still have it. Kind of
Sick.
forgot that. But then I just started making some and selling them on Facebook Marketplace, which was fun. And I was like, oh, like creativity can exist in geometry, in numbers, in measurement.
Yep.
Um, and then I think 2 or 3 months ago. It was end of March to end of April. You invited Jeff, your brother, and I think a few other people to do the 30-day content challenge, which was you have
Yep.
to create something every day. And I just remember noodling on it for like a couple of days, and like Jeff did the tuna sandwich video
Yeah.
that Jeff did. I was like, that's awesome. And like if I can be silly and do like stuff with that, I'm just
Yeah.
gonna give it a shot. And so um, talked to my wife about it, and she affirmed it and thought it was a great idea. And so I'm like, okay, I just have to create something every day. And having that fire under my feet, I guess, was like, it doesn't, and your slogan of like, make bad art, like it doesn't have to be perfect, just like put something out there. Because so many people, including myself prior to that, was so nervous about people criticizing what I put out,
Hmm.
to the point where I'd be like, oh, it's just not worth it,
Yeah.
like just shooting myself down before I even gave it a shot. And so the beauty of that challenge was like, okay, there's no room for like entertaining other people's criticism or shooting down your own idea, especially when it's like 10:15 and you haven't had the time to put something together.
Yep.
And I'm like, okay, I got to come up with something. And I can't remember, like, some of them were like the one I did of, it was just like a thought bubble of a Hormel pepperoni commercial. Um, like some of them were,
Yeah, some of
some of
them were
them,
absolutely rogue.
yeah.
It was
Love that you're
so
using that
funny.
word. I say that word all the time, and I've felt
Huge
so
rogue
alone.
fan. Yeah.
Um, but then it was also like, oh, you said another time, like your next viral video is already in your library,
Yep.
and I'm like,
Totally.
oh, I have been sitting on so much stuff for however long that um, I'm just like, I forgot it was that funny or like that creative or whatever, and like it's worth sharing, whether
Hmm.
I guess whether I like it or not, or yeah,
Yeah, whether you find it like perfect and polished and presentable or not.
that's what I meant.
Yeah,
That's what I meant.
totally.
Was there
We
something
okay,
else
we
I was
got
gonna say?
sidetracked though. You were sort of sharing about the creativity and the identity piece.
Yes.
And so the creativity, the 30-day challenge was another sort of step of you sort of kind of coming into that identity of like, oh, I can make stuff and put it out there, and like even if it doesn't go viral or even if it doesn't get this like crazy praising feedback, it can be meaningful to you and it can be something, it can be a muscle that you're growing.
Oh, 100%. And by the way, I didn't notice until yesterday that you resent the contract. I'm up for round two. I just
You are up
didn't
for
see.
round two.
Which I'm officially starting it yesterday. With the
Oh,
the
wait,
video I
really?
put. Yeah, I
What'd
posted
you
a video
post? I don't know if I've
yesterday.
seen it.
Dude, this one was fun. It was like an anniversary video I made for
Oh,
Kaylee.
maybe I did see that. Yes.
Yeah,
Where it was Goodwill Hunting, right?
yes,
Yes,
starts
I
with that
totally
clip,
saw
which
that.
is
Yeah.
the most goated quote of all time about marriage and
I'm
relationship,
with you. I'm with you.
and just, slapped some Harry Styles behind it, whom I love. And
Yep.
um, yeah, started with, anyways, up around two, 30 day. I'm so good at sidetracking. I'm so good at it. Um,
So it makes you great to talk to, Alex. I
um,
love it. I'm a huge side quest guy.
yes, I love it. Side quest. I'm gonna say that now instead of sidetrack. What were we talking about? 30-day
Just
content challenge.
identity, you understanding yourself as a creative, and just the journey you've been on over the last year. So Wild Sun's connected to it, 30-day challenge connected to it. Um, and yeah, I guess I would be curious if you were to just sort of play it out now for whatever your next step is. Like, do you feel like that's going to be something that you take into consideration or is impacting like whatever you choose to do next?
Absolutely, 100%. Yeah, you know, like I said, or I'm up for round two of the content challenge, and I've already got like a bunch of ideas that I want to do. But also, I think the most important thing, um, with this challenge was I had fun with it before. And if I want to keep doing this, or if I want this to be an avenue in the future, I want to listen to that one person I talked about where he was like, I talk about this every day and I love doing it. And that's what keeps him
Hmm.
going. Like that's
Right.
that's what I'm after. And whether or not, you know, short form content and, personal stuff is um like a reality there, like that's fine. I just want to have fun with it. Oh yes. And one of the things that what am I trying to say? I think a reason why I'm really exploring that as a legitimate option is because I had so much fun with the first challenge.
Hmm.
And in one of my conversations the past couple weeks, just with like career mentors and guides, I talked to him about this one piece of content that I made at my last company, um, where it felt like I just gotten struck by lightning, with the idea, and I was like so excited about it. And while I was recording it and editing it, some of my coworkers were like, what are you like? What are you doing? What are you making? And I'm like, I can't tell you. I can't tell you. Um, and it was
Just let
the
him cook.
yeah, it was the Sasquatch one,
Yep.
because we had just released an article about a trade show that was Sasquatch themed at the perfect time of the Sasquatch sightings in Colorado, and I was like, this is amazing, and I had so much fun making it, and so I'm like, I felt my heart behind that, and it was just so easy and entertaining and fun to do that I'm like, okay, I'd love to keep doing that. And I think something that you and I talked about a couple weeks ago is like I know people who are saying some really awesome things that would make some really great short form content,
Hmm.
and I'm
Totally.
like, this, is one of the few things in my life that has come so easily, um,
Hmm.
not in the terms of like I'm an expert immediately because I'm way not, but it's like I have there's some types of experimentation that bore me and just make me frustrated immediately.
Yep.
Um, like looking for any recipe on the internet ever, just because of
Like to make
all the
food.
ads and the novels and
Oh, yeah.
stuff
Brutal.
before you just get to the ingredients. But I just been like using CapCut because it's free and I didn't want to pay for
Yeah.
anything else. And I'm
Yeah.
like having so much fun with the the transitions and just putting together. I don't know, just like learning with it, and
Totally.
super fun. I even started sending like green screen memes to my coworkers, like like
Dude, those are huge. It's so funny how like there's an entire category of people who make a full-time living just making dumb memes on CapCut.
yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah. Anyway, did that cover it?
That covered a lot. That was super great. Yeah,
Okay.
I would love to know like my mind goes to there's probably a lot of people right now like even just in the last week I've talked to so many people that are either thinking about leaving their job soon or have just lost work or are kind of in a similar like in between stage where they know they're leaving something when they don't know what's next type thing. I feel like I said earlier, I think you've been someone I've seen really excel in that space and really be alive in it and not live out of a lack or a sense of scarcity. Um, what would you say to someone who has felt stuck in that place, or maybe is like hates their job like crazy, but just feels like there's no other jobs out there? Like, what would I'm not saying you're the expert, the end all be all on things, but I
Yeah.
do think you have a lot to offer someone like that. Like, what would be your word of advice to someone like that?
Sure. I might need a sec to think about it and round out my thoughts. It's
Sure,
also interesting talking from a perspective of like I don't have the next thing landed yet. I'm just like super
totally.
happy. um, I would say first thing that's been most helpful for me, which is going to come easier to those who love and follow Jesus, of trust that there is a plan for your life, and the timing is perfect. And even if you don't know the next step, like there is something before you.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that's been like the most grounding reminder every day of like, I'm going to do my best today and, ask that the Lord bless my efforts and everything.
Yeah.
And I still don't know the next step, but I'm going to trust that there's something before me. Um, the other thing is this didn't this didn't happen until my owners like said this to me, but just like really ask yourself and be honest with yourself if you enjoy what you're doing. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and if you feel like you can't be honest about that, like if you can't, um, if you feel like you can't really validate like those feelings that you're having, talk to someone that you work with or someone that you love and just be like, hey, preferably someone who knows you well, and be like, hey, do you like when you look at me doing my job, do you feel like I am enjoying myself and um, like living out of my best self while I'm doing that work? Or do you feel like it's like
Mm.
uphill battle? And do you feel like I'm becoming like less of who I'm supposed to be,
Hmm.
by doing this work? And I think if you ask that question, you know, and if the other person's going to be honest, might help give you the freedom to be like, okay, actually seeing them notice that maybe I'm not doing so great will give you the freedom to be honest of, um, you know what, I don't love what I've been doing, and that's okay. Um, Another thing is, this one might be a little more difficult. The awesome thing about Bonfire was they invested in like every self-discovery course, curriculum, whatever out there. And so I
Hmm.
know so much about myself that I can actually like quantifiable data about myself, um, that I'm just like, okay, I'm good at this and I'm good at this. But I've also asked a few people like, hey, what do you think some of my strengths are that stick out to you the
Mm-hmm.
most? Another thing that my boss said to me was like, he was like, I could go around to everyone in this office and ask them, what do you love about Alex and what do you think he's good at? And he says they would all say the same thing. And
Whoa.
so, yeah. And I was like,
That's super cool.
I've hardly talked about it at all, but I'm a person who loves to talk and get to know people. My boss says I know no strangers. I love to go up and meet new people. I don't care who you are.
Yep.
And I didn't realize that's like such a huge strength for people who are getting into sales. And I'm like, okay, maybe that's a thing for me.
Yeah.
Let's see, anything else? I don't know, cry if you need to.
Have you had a couple good cries?
Oh yeah, dude. The day I decided I was leaving, I just left work early and cried in my car. But it was good. It was really good.
Need that, dude. Did you have a soundtrack or was it just silence?
I it was just silence. I don't know if I have a sad boy soundtrack.
Yeah, some people need like a
Oh, I
nice
totally
cinematic
do.
song. Oh, you
I
do?
Yeah,
What's your
dude.
cry song?
Supermarket Flowers by Ed Sheeran.
I don't think I even know that song. It's a good cry
Oh,
song?
dude, it'll wreck you. Yeah, if it's about his grandmother passing away,
Oof.
and
Dang.
listening to that around the time when my grandmother actually did pass away was like, it was just a death sentence, but it was
Yeah,
awesome
that's
and
just
it was beautiful.
waterworks guaranteed.
Yeah. Um,
Cool.
Listen to it with like your nicest pair of AirPods. Actually are great on full blast, or anything over the
As
ear.
long as your ears are bleeding, you're doing it right.
Yeah. So,
That's funny, man. Cool. Dude, that's all solid. Yeah, is there any other last nugs you would have to contribute?
that's nuts. Let's see. I wrote down a few things. Um, I tried puppy yoga, but that's not relevant.
What do you mean that's not relevant, dude? Puppy yoga could be the cure. It could be
Well,
the
it was
thing.
just I don't know if that's what you should do, especially if it's like Kaylee wants a second dog, and I way don't.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and that's something that comes up frequently.
Yep.
um, and I was like, oh, a good compromise is like, let's just go hang out with puppies. So I send her the thing to like sign up for it, and she sends me the fine print that says all puppies will be adoptable at the event. And I'm like, what? No, 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 wait. Let me tell you something.
Dang, dude. Signed your own death sentence there.
Yeah. So no puppies. Let's see. Yeah, I don't think so. I don't think I have any other encouragement necessarily other than God is good and it's going to be okay.
That's most of it, I think. Literally,
Yeah.
because I would say like the foundation of a lot of what you do is an abundance mentality and just a sense of trust.
Yeah.
And that is hard, dude, especially for people like you've got a really sweet setup, but for people who like random, get into work one day and they hop onto a call and it's like head of HR and the and your manager, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, there's so many, you can have that day. A lot of people have had that day. I don't think I've ever actually been laid off before, which is kind of a blessing, but like it's a scary thing. And
Yeah.
I think one of the hardest things to do in that situation is to just like genuinely have a deep sense of trust and well-being coming out of that. And so, yeah, I think maybe like a place to continue the conversation, and maybe this is for next time because I'm close to being out of time, but
Yeah.
the question of like, if you are in a mindset of lack, what is something you can do to transform that? Because I feel like that's probably just a lot of society, a lot of people, especially I think younger people, there's a sense of scarcity with like relationship. I think a lot of people have a harder time, like just with social media and with just how the world is changing. I think a lot of people have a harder time just trusting that people want to spend time with them, that
Yeah.
strangers will be benefited by them interacting with you. And I think over time that's getting harder. And I think just, we could probably have an entire podcast conversation on like talking about places in our life where we've experienced a sense of lack or negativity or whatever, and what has sort of been a factor in flipping that into a place of trust and abundance. But maybe that's for next time, Alex.
Yeah. That's so many things come to mind immediately. I'll noodle on it, but yeah, that
We should noodle.
I think last like mic drop for that is so many people just believe that they don't have anything to offer, which
Yeah,
is
real.
bullshit. So,
Well, that's a lot of why I
yeah.
love the 30-day challenge so much. Like I love trying to bully people into that, because if you can just get someone to commit to like just making something, and even if they have to call it bad art, even if they have to say this is stupid, and it like, even if they don't believe that what they have to say is of any value at all, I think after 30 days of putting stuff out there on the internet, most people are like, oh, I actually like this, and received way more positive feedback than they were expecting, and make connections with cool people more than they thought they would. So
Yeah.
I'm with you there, buddy. It's a big deal.
Yeah, man.
Cool. Well,
See.
Alex, dude, thanks so much for making time for this, man. It's always so freaking fun talking to you. And um, yeah, I just think you're one of the friendships in my life that I don't want to like bring online to like harvest. It's not like I want to like milk our relationship and get views from it.
Harvest it, milk it. I'm
But it
your
does feel like
Arrakis, dude.
something that I think both of us are really open. You're a racket. Oh my gosh. It does feel like something where I just feel so benefited and just so like encouraged every time I talk to you. And I just feel like it's a worthy endeavor to share your personality and these thoughts on my channels, however small they might be right now. So dude, just thanks again for making time for this. And let's do it again soon.
Thanks, man. Thanks for the invite. It's been a blast. And whether or not this is posted anywhere, I would love to have access to it at some point so I
Yeah.
can look at it again in like 5 years.
Amen.
So thanks, man. This is and like I look up to you so much as well, and I would you know deflect things back to you, not deflect, ricochet, repeat, whatever. Um, I'm often encouraged by you, and
Yeah.
if this is if freelance content is a direction that I go, like you're a huge force behind it. So Much appreciated. So,
Thanks, man. I
yeah.
appreciate it a ton. Well, till next time, buddy. Cheers.
Okay. Farewell.